did she tell you when you were hugging her that she was uncomfortable with that? Right?
Correct.
And you said she didn't tell you, she didn't say anything about being uncomfortable with that. Right?
No, sir, she did not.
Okay. But at the very, very, very beginning of this statement to you and Investigator Riddle, that was about a 16-minute. You remember, were you there when she was first put in the interview room?
I can't say if I had made it back by then or not.
I think Riddle brought her into the room. And if I tell you it's about 16 minutes before the two of you come in to start the interview, would that surprise you?
It would not surprise me.
And within about 10 minutes of that entry to that room in the beginning of this interview, she told you and Riddle that she was uncomfortable because she had been raped by a police officer, right?
I think her word was nervous. I mean, you have the video, but she did say something about being raped by a police officer.
Could I have control on the system?
I'm sorry.
Could I have control on the system, please? So she told you she was uncomfortable.
I don't think the word was uncomfortable, sir.
What do you think she told you?
I'm not sure you have the video. If you want me to vouch for a
Kidding
particular
me?
word.
Are you serious? Your daughter is dead.
I know that.
Okay. This is your chance to tell the truth.
I said, let's try it, because I know at the hospital, you said you had to go to the bathroom, right? And you tried to give your phone to some lady, correct? And she wouldn't take it. So after she didn't take the phone, what'd you do with it?
I mean, are you gonna charge me with something?
What'd you do?
That's tampering.
Well, it's because
So what? No. So what you're telling us is you don't care.
it's not that
You
I
don't
don't
care
care. I
if
got
it's
raped
fine.
by a police officer, so please.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you serious?
So right there, she's telling you, I got raped by a police officer, right?
Correct.
And how many police officers are in that little room with her right now?
2. Neither one of them have raped her though.
Dead.
I know that.
And you don't want to tell
And
us
this is
who
how
killed
Riddle
your
responds.
child?
No.
Lord have mercy. Do you have a heart? Do you have a soul?
More worried about being charged for throwing that phone in the toilet.
You're fucking right. No, she will be charged. You're going to be charged with tampering. That's tampering with evidence. I'm serious to God. You're going to go to jail for that tonight. You can lawyer up, do what you want to. We want the truth from you. If you tell us the truth, then by George, I'll call the damn DA's office and tell them.
When she told you she'd been raped by a police officer, she was telling you the truth, wasn't she?
Objection, Your Honor. No way.
Calls for speculation. He wouldn't know that.
Do you know she was raped by a police officer?
At that point, no, sir, I did not.
You do now, right?
No, I actually still haven't seen it. I've heard that she was, but I know nothing about that case, sir.
Right. So you don't know anything about this 2-inch thick TBI investigation of the rape of Miss Howington by an officer in Sullivan County?
No, sir, because you just said it was TBI, and TBI files aren't public record, so I wouldn't be able to get a copy of that.
And this was a homicide investigation, and you were trying to get to the truth. But since, nobody at TBI would talk to any of you, would they?
Not that night, no, sir.
Or any other time? You didn't ask, did you? Did you this came to me from the prosecution's office. Did you not talk to them about the fact that she claimed she'd been raped?
Your Honor, may we approach, please?
He said he didn't know, Mr. Whalen. No, continue the cross-examination.
I understand, Judge. The question is not did he know. The question is, you all are telling her if you tell her the truth, it'll be okay. She told you that truth, and that's what she got for it, wasn't it? She said, I was raped by a police officer, and he loses his mind and starts yelling and screaming and claiming she ain't got a soul or a heart.
Sir, as horrible as rape is, that's not what we were there for that night. That was, like you said, that was a case that had happened before that we had nothing to do with. The fact at hand that night was we had a 5-year-old that was shot and murdered, and that's what we were trying to find out.
And you just brought the mother of that 5-year-old from the hospital where you were present 40 minutes before this, right?
Correct.
When the doctor told her, your daughter is dead, right?
Correct.
And so you said you were going to take her phone because she called 911, right? That's what you just testified to.
Negative, sir. I said that we were going to call because there could be some evidence in there, and we knew she used 911 to call. You knew she used it to call 911.
You said she used it to call 911, so there was evidence in the phone. Evidence of what? A 911 call?
That and who knows what else.
And that gives you the right to take her phone because she made the 911 call?
Well, sir, if you actually remember what I said, I didn't take her phone when I said that. I let her keep her phone. I didn't take her phone until she tried to give it away to a stranger in the restroom and destroy it. That's when I took her phone. I had told her she could keep her phone so she could try to keep in contact with where Gavin was and try to find someone to come be with her. So I never took her phone until she gave me a reason to take her phone, sir.
You said when she was in the family room, I should have taken her phone. She called 911 and there would be evidence on that phone.
Should and did aren't the same thing. And I did not take her phone at that time. I left the phone with her.
Why should you have taken the phone from the mother because she called 911?
Because, sir, you know just as well as I do, it's exculpatory evidence. And if I don't take it, then you'll bring it up that I should have got her phone. So in situations like these, to make sure that there's nothing we're missing, we take those phones. And I didn't take the phone until she gave me a reason to take the phone.
Are you telling this jury that every individual who calls a 911 on a homicide, you take their phone?
Telling you when there's questions to the homicide, yes, we'll take their phone and download it and see the contents of it. Yes, sir.
Have you ever been involved in the investigation of a homicide when in 2 hours later there weren't questions?
I can't tell you about every homicide I've ever worked, sir. But I can tell you in this one that there were a lot of questions. And even though how you're trying to paint this, I didn't take Ms. Howington's phone until Ms. Howington gave me a reason when she tried to destroy evidence.
I didn't say you took her phone. I'm saying you testified that you intended you should have taken the phone.
Should and did is two totally different things, sir.
And I just asked you about why you should, sir. If you say
Your Honor,
these things,
I think that he's answered at this point.
Ask and answer, Mr. Whalen. Sustained.
if you testify, I'm going to ask you questions about what you're saying.
The judge just said I answered it, sir.
If you continue to testify, I'm going to continue to ask you questions about what you said, okay?
I have no problem answering those questions, sir.
So, did you think that was the appropriate way to deal with a woman who just told you she'd been raped by a police officer?
I think that's appropriate when you want to find out who just killed a 5-year-old.
It's appropriate to jump up, pound on the table, yell and scream and say, don't you have a heart?
Your Honor,
Don't you have a soul?
At this point, we're talking about conduct of another person. We're talking about conduct of Investigator Riddle. Mr. Whalen has already cross-examined Mr. Riddle.
It's fair game. You played the video again, General. Overruled.
Do you think that's appropriate behavior for a woman who's just told you she was raped by a police officer?
I think it is appropriate behavior when you're trying to figure out who murdered a 5-year-old and your only witness is not being truthful with you. I do think that is appropriate behavior.
You don't know if she's being truthful with you.
Sir, she just tried to destroy evidence, sir.
She tried to get
Innocent
rid of
people don't
someone.
destroy evidence, sir. Sorry.
And I just asked you, it's true that she got raped.
I
She
had-
told you the truth and that's what she got for it.
And I told you I had no idea at that point if what she was telling me was the truth.
Here's the question.
You even said yourself you didn't get that until you got it from the prosecution. So how am I supposed to get it a no on the same night?
I don't say you have to know it on the same night. Maybe if you'd given her a couple of hours or a day or two to get her mind together over after the loss of her daughter, you would have had more information, wouldn't you?
Well, sir, the reason that she wasn't given any time, like you keep trying to say that we just took her and threw her in a room, is because she tried to destroy evidence. So now we need to figure out why in a murder trial, when your 5-year-old daughter was shot, you're more concerned about destroying your phone than you are about helping us figure out who this unknown black male that you claim shot your daughter.
The only way you knew she was trying to get rid of her phone was because she wasn't allowed to get in that ambulance and go to the hospital by herself. She went with a police officer and then was handed off to you at the hospital, right?
Sir, I don't know if she wasn't allowed to get the ambulance. I just know that she was there sitting in a room and I went to speak with her and I wanted to make sure that she knew where Gavin was, and when I went, then I spoke to the doctor. When I came back, she had tried to destroy the phone.
You do know that in a police-involved shooting, the police officer will get time to get videos and records and review all those before they talk to an investigator, don't you?
Police officers actually, when a police officer is involved, they have to give a statement the day of, and then they come back and give another statement, which Ms. Howington actually did.
So they don't get 48 to 72 hours?
You give a statement the day of, and then you get 48 to 72 hours to come back, as which she did.
No. She gave a statement 40 minutes after being told her daughter's dead.
Officers have to give a statement immediately when they're involved in a critical incident. Let me try. Okay, I'll try this again. If an officer is involved in a critical incident, the day of that incident, that officer has to give a brief statement to the police department. Then that officer leaves, and then they come back and give another statement 2 days later. So what he's trying to make you think that officers just get to go home and there's nothing, that's not true. They do give a statement that day, any officer involved.
So if there's been different testimony about that, you're right.
You should be able to find a general order, sir, and the general order will tell you that.
How would it define a brief statement?
You would be able to find the general order, sir.
4 hours of a statement is brief?
The 4 hours is what her statement was, is because the truth didn't come out in it, sir.
And police officers, when they're involved in shootings, is it usually their child who has died?
No, sir, it's not.
And you would agree that's a much more emotionally charged situation, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir, it is.
So if police officers, professional, trained police officers need a little time to figure things out, 48 or 72 hours, how about a grieving mother who's just been told her daughter is dead?
So the difference is, if a police officer is involved with a shooting, with there being body cams and cruiser cams and everything, they're going to be able to go and look at that and can further continue the investigation without having that officer there giving an in-depth interview. In this situation, we don't have that. All we have is a statement is that a random black man came in off the street and shot this little girl, and then we have a broken cell phone from the mother after she's told that we're possibly going to need it. That seems to make us think there's a little more going on here than what we're being told. So if we didn't continue on with the investigation, that would be negligent on our part. I understand she's a grieving mother, but also there's a dead 5-year-old that we need to figure out what happened to her, and we need to also make sure there's not some random black guy running into people's houses killing kids.
And let me ask you, you were asked about her changing her story, right?
Correct.
Who is the first individual in that interview room who mentioned Antoine Oliver as a possible suspect?
I did.
At first you said, what do you think? That's probably a problem, right? Since you're not with him and you got this other boyfriend, that's what you're talking about. What's the deal now?
No, I asked her what was the deal. I didn't say it was a problem. I asked what was the deal with it.
You said you're not with him, and you're with this other guy. How does that work?
Sir, I don't feel comfortable with you trying to make me recall things when you have the video and you can show on the video to say exactly what I said.
Do you recall saying, after bringing Antoine up,
I would like to see the video if you're going to try to something that I said, sir.
when you go home watch the video, I'm going to ask you for this transcript, sir.
Well, can I have a copy of the transcript also? Can I have a different copy, sir?
Well, just look at this one, and if you recall saying that, read it to yourself.
Just that paragraph, read that to yourself. Take your time. This is page 22.
Have you finished reading?
Yes, sir.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do you recall making that statement?
Correct.
And the statement that you made was, I'm going to be straight with you. I feel like it's her dad, and I feel like you don't want to tell us that. I feel like he's pissed off about all this stuff that's going on. You won't let him see her. She's scared of him. I feel like he came in here pissed off and he did it. And you're scared to say something because it's going to be the same thing that's been going on down in the past. I feel like that's what happened. You don't want to say it because you're scared. That's what you said, right?
Correct.
Read that next statement that Mr. Riddle made in your presence.
I think you are too. I think he's hit the nail on the head. I don't think he intended to kill the little girl. I think he was going to shoot and scare.
So, that's you laying out that Antoine did it. Mr. Riddle here saying, oh, you hit it right on the nail. I think that's what happened too. And that's when the attitude changed from yelling and screaming, and it's shortly after that that you decided that what all you need, honey, is this, and you give her a hug. Right? This
No.
is all you need.
Sir, again, from the onset, when I dealt with her, my concern was you need someone here with you. At the beginning of the interview, when I come in the room, I told her I've checked on Gavin. I've tried to call somebody to be here with you. She says the only person I know is my mom. So from the onset, even though you're trying to play like it's not, I was concerned with her having someone there with her.
I understand all of that. That's not what I'm asking you, officer. Here's the thing. You're saying you are only concerned about Miss Howington's well-being and that she has somebody there to support her. And then you watch Riddle lose his mind and yell and scream at her. Did you ever stop and say, oh, whoa, hang on there, Riddle. Let's talk a minute. Did you ever say that?
No.
You didn't care. And then you
I'm sorry, sir, I don't think you can tell me what I thought at that moment.
How many times did you say to her, you don't care?
You can't tell me what I thought at that moment, sir.
I can tell you what you said. How about that?
What did I say at that moment, sir?
You don't care. I don't think you care.
You said that I didn't care about what Investigator Riddle was doing, and you can't tell me how I felt about Investigator Riddle.
I'm saying you didn't have any problem with telling her that she didn't care about her 5-year-old being dead, but you didn't bother to tell him, hey, Riddle, back up a minute.
Her
Let's talk."
actions were showing that she was only worried about herself and that phone.
Okay, so we can clarify that you believe that that was perfectly good conduct on Riddle's part.
Did I say that, sir? Did I say that, sir?
You just said it was her actions that brought all that on.
No, sir, I did not say that. Those are your words you just said. I just said,
Tell me.
what I said is that she was more worried about herself and that phone. She wasn't worried about her 5-year-old. I never said anything about what Investigator Riddle did or how I felt about it.
You just told the grieving mother that she was more concerned about her phone than her dead 5-year-old.
What does the evidence show, sir?
I'm asking you.
I'm asking you, what does the evidence show? She was more worried about that phone. She tried to give a phone to a random stranger in the restroom, then break it, and then put water on it. You're more concerned about that phone and the contents of that phone than you are about making sure we find out who killed your daughter. I don't know how else you can look at that.
Well, can you understand how she might not think you give a damn about her daughter when you yell and scream at her in the interview room?
I never yelled and screamed
No,
at
you
her,
did,
sir.
but you think it's okay because you think that her conduct deserved that.
Sir, for the fourth
Throwing
time,
a phone in the sink.
Let him
caused
answer
that.
the
for the
question.
fourth time, I've told you I didn't yell at her, and I didn't say that it was okay to yell
You
at her.
didn't stop it either, did you?
I said what she had showed us was that she was more worried about that phone. And at that point, the most important thing that night was a dead 5-year-old. We ain't the dope police, we the murder police. We worry about dead bodies. I don't care if she had sold dope to everybody in Knoxville in that phone. That was not my concern. My concern was why a little girl was dead and why we weren't getting answers from the only witness. That was my concern that night.
Both of you folks here, you and Ruben, as long as you've been on the police force, it has always said the same thing on the side of your car. Protect and serve.
Yes, sir.
Does that apply to Ms. Wardlaw? I'm sorry, God help me.
It does
Does that
apply to my
Ms.
wife.
Howington?
Yes, sir, it applies to my wife, but it does apply to Miss Howington also.
Were you protecting and serving her interests at that moment of a
Your
grieving
Honor,
mother?
Your Honor, at this point, I'm gonna have to object. First of all, this is not relevant, it's not an appropriate question. This is an interview.
He can ask the question, but Mr. Whalen, it's been asked and answered. I'll allow you to ask this one question, then go to another topic.
When you reached out to hug her, were you protecting her or were you using an investigative tool?
I was consoling a mother whose child had died, sir.
Now, in your unit, you explained to her, you and Riddle both, that your unit deals with homicides and rapes and robberies, violent crimes, right?
Correct.
So you have handled rape cases before?
Yes, sir, I have.
Would you ever hug a rape victim when you're interviewing them?
Yes, sir, I have. One of my really good friends and her mother from one of my rape cases that were actually really good friends now, they send me Christmas cards because we've made a bond.
You think it's okay for a police officer to hug a rape victim in an interview?
If that's what that person needs at that time, and they're not telling you they don't want it, yes, that's perfectly fine. I've hugged plenty of rape victims and other victims and suspects in that room.
And the phrase, "I'm scared I was raped by a police officer," is not a way of telling you I'm probably not interested in a hug from a police officer right now.
Now again, you're asking me to speculate.
know
All I know is,
speculated that she needed a hug.
sir, her child just died. You know, she needed someone to be there with her, like I had told her from the beginning. And she chose to destroy her phone instead of call someone to be there with her. So I was there, she was crying, and I gave her a hug. And I would do it again, sir.
Have you listened to the phone, to the cruiser video from now Trooper Tucker's vehicle who transported her to the hospital?
I have not listened to that.
When she's telling someone on the phone, "Please come down to UT. I'm in a police car, they're taking me there. Come to UT, please."
Your Honor, the witness said he hasn't
He just
listened
said he
to it.
hadn't heard it.
Well, you just said she hadn't called anybody. You didn't know it.
She didn't call anybody when I told her to. She destroyed the phone. And I wasn't able to look and see because the phone wouldn't come back on when I attempted to get phone numbers for her to call someone. I even tell her that in the interview. Your phone's not coming on. I can't get numbers for you to call anybody.
And you said, "Call your mama," and she said it would give her a heart attack.
And I said, and again, I tell her she needs to call somebody.
She needed somebody down there, didn't she? Because otherwise, all she's got is two cops screaming at her in the interview.
Again, sir, I never raised my voice. I never screamed at Miss Howington.
But you did change her story.
No, she changed her story because just as well, she could, when I asked her if she did it, she said no. So she has the capability of also saying no, that Antoine didn't do it. But again, the only thing she was worried about that night was the phone and herself.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up. You asked her at one point, "What about Antoine? Do you believe he could have done this?" Remember that?
You'll have to show me again.
Have you prepared at all for your testimony here today?
I don't remember everything word for word, sir, and I don't think there's a need of you keep taking shots.
There's what?
Anita, you keep trying to take personal shots at me. I don't think that's called for.
Who took a personal shot?
You, sir.
Because you keep asking me to show it to you?
Yes, sir. If you're asking me to testify to something on this stand and you have it and I can verify that I've said it, I would like to see it. You refuse to play the video, so I would like to read it.
You understand I get to ask the questions the way I choose, right?
You do, and I get to ask if I can make sure that what I'm testifying to is correct.
How many times on direct did you ask to be shown the transcript of the video?
She showed me the video, sir, and she showed me the photos.
Do you recall her telling you in that interview that I don't believe it wasn't Antoine, I promise? Do you remember her telling you that?
Can you show me that in the transcript?
Sir, answer the question.
You're asking me for exact phrase that was said. So if you want me to testify to an exact phrase, I would like to see it.
Do
He
you
needs to be
remember?
allowed
That's
to
the
answer the
proper
question
question.
without the
All right.
defense attorney.
This is
knowing.
not your witness. General Good makes the objections. Answer his question, Detective Warlaw. Do you remember? And if you don't, you don't. I mean, and then he can show it to you to refresh your recollection.
There were so many different variations of what happened. I can't tell you exactly word for word. You're asking me to tell you something word for word.
I'm not asking you to tell me a stinking thing word for word. I'm asking you, do you remember her telling you it wasn't Antoine, I promise?
You just said he did.
Well, can I get that answer, yes or no? Because you're asking me questions and I don't know.
I told you there were several variations of what she told us. So I don't know if she said Antoine was there. She said he wasn't there. She said he did it. He said he did it. She said a whole myriad of people did it.
And nobody mentioned Antoine until you did.
Because, and I've already explained to you why that was brought up, sir.
Now, we'll get back to that in a second. You say that when you went to the bedroom, when you went back to the house at the end of the interview, right?
Correct.
Back to Ms. Howington's house. And you talked about the photograph of. And Ms. Howington had told you during an interview that she kept the gun in a bag on the top shelf in the closet, right?
Correct.
So she walks into that room, and it's your testimony that she then, showing you, been introduced, Exhibit 35, it's a collective. One of those photographs is this. Is that the bag that she placed onto that shelf?
Yes, sir.
Now, you say that the whole purpose of talking to Ms. Howington at that point is you wanted to get information, right?
I didn't say that. I didn't say the purpose of us talking to her right then was for me to get information. No, sir.
So the reason, you didn't say the reason she went from the hospital to KPD for an interview was because she's the only witness and you needed to get information.
You just asked if I said that at the house. I didn't say I went to the house. Well, the way you phrased it was confusing. I didn't go to the house to get information from her. We went back to the police headquarters to speak with her to get information for her. I haven't spoke about why we went to the house. I just spoke about what took place at the house.
Well, let me confuse you. You told me earlier the reason you couldn't give her any time was because you had a homicide of a 5-year-old and you needed to get the information from the only witness, right?
That's why we went to the police station, not to the house. And you're asking about the house now.
I am.
So I don't see
4
how
hours later,
those
she
correlate.
tried
Your
to
Honor,
give
if
you-
you could let the witness answer.
Don't talk over each other. Ask the question, answer the question, do not talk over each other. Ask it again.
4 hours later, when you go to the house, maybe 5 hours, this is 4 a.m., she's trying to give you information and show you that's where the black bag was, in the closet, right? By putting it there.
No, sir. I think she was just putting it up there because it wasn't matching up what she was telling us.
And so you're upset that she's moving something in the crime scene, right?
Correct.
Okay. There's a stool in the closet on another photograph in that same exhibit, right?
Correct.
When did that stool get into the closet in that photograph?
After we placed it there, after we took the all over photos, which is acceptable.
So you moved evidence in the crime scene.
No, sir, I did not move evidence in a crime scene. We actually, again, you know how this works. We took all over photos of everything in place. Then, once we were finished with that area and we needed to do the measurements, we moved the stool after we had documented what we needed to document. So yes, we moved the stool after we were finished with that area to document it.
So have you seen one of the all-over photographs that shows that black bag hanging on the back of the door?
I haven't seen an all over photo, no, sir.
So maybe you didn't capture that?
I didn't take the picture, sir.
When you say we,
The
Did I
members
say
of the
you?
Knoxville Police Department. I did not take the photographs.
have you seen a photograph of the overall crime scene that has that there?
I have seen the photos of the crime scene.
You and Riddle both were making a lot of assumptions about what Miss Howington was telling you, right?
No, I wasn't making assumptions. It wasn't lining up with the evidence.
Right. Yeah, you said that many times in the interview. It's not lining up. There should be a shell casing. There's no shell casing. It's not lining up. There should be a bullet through the couch and into the floor. There's no bullet in the couch into the floor. It's not lining up because you didn't know where all that stuff was. Somebody in the department did at that point, didn't
No, sir, nobody.
They'd already found the gun outside with the shell casing stuck in it.
The gun was found outside, but again, like I said, we didn't find it in the house. And usually when there's a shooting, typically shell casing ejects and it's found in that area.
We didn't find it in the house. You weren't at the house doing that.
I was initially at the house and then I left, sir.
The techs were there doing that, right?
Yeah, then I was at the residence and I left and went to the hospital and the crime scene techs stayed at the scene. Usually,
I'm sorry.
when we're on murder scenes, we direct the crime techs what to do. That's why Investigator Riddle stayed, because he's the lead detective, it's his scene. He's going to direct the crime scene techs. When I was there with him and we looked, like I just explained, usually when a semi-automatic weapon is fired, it's going to eject a casing. That casing is usually not far from where the gun was fired. We looked in the vicinity in that room, we didn't find it. So to us, there's no shell casing like there usually should be. That's why I said we can't find the shell casing.
Now, Investigator Riddle testified that you got to be careful of those shell casings because they're skitterish little things. They'll go all over the place. He's wrong, because you say it should be right near where the gun was fired.
I didn't say it should be near. I said the vicinity. They usually shoot out to the right, and because it's metal, it can bounce and move, but being that it's carpet, there's small chance of that happening. Also, it could be kicked by people entering the residence. We took that into consideration. We looked in the other rooms. There's still no shell casing.
So all these things you didn't know yet, where the shell casing was, where the bullet was.
No, sir.
You didn't know that.
No, sir.
But you kept telling her story wasn't lining up because she didn't know. Where's the bullet? Where's the shell casing? Right?
Yeah, that's once we found out where it was.
No, you didn't find out where the bullet was for quite some time, right? They
That's
get
where
that
no,
day
you
at the garage.
you just asked me about the shell casing. We found out where the shell casing was that night, and so then now it's not lining up. You just said that the shell casing was in. No, you just said it was
Once you
in.
found the gun, you knew where the shell casing was. It was in the gun.
And that's what I just said to you, sir. We found that night because you asked about the shell casing, and once we were informed that the shell casing was in the gun, which was found outside the house, that's more evidence that's not lining up with her story and the broken cell phone and all the other things that we're getting from her.
She told you why the gun was outside the house.
She gave us a reason to why it was outside the house, and she gave us a couple reasons.
And you made sure she knew you had kids, right?
We both told her we had kids, sir.
And he told her he has kids, right? And any of your kids, God forbid, been killed that night?
No, sir.
What would your mentality have been like?
Your Honor,
had that happened?
objection. The witness's state of mind is not relevant.
They used that in the interview, Judge. We both got kids.
Last question. Ask him, answer that, and then move
I
on
can't
to
speak to
something.
that because I've never been in that situation. But I can tell you, I have dealt with several parents in that situation, and their mindset is totally different from what Miss Howington's was that night.
How many of them had PTSD?
Sir, I'm not a clinical technician. I can't tell you, and people don't walk around with a vest on that says I have PTSD, so I don't know. I just know that their actions upon finding out that their child was dead or murdered was vastly, drastically different from Miss Howington's.
You knew she had PTSD because she told you.
No, sir, I didn't know she had PTSD.
She told you.
Where is that at in the interview that she says I have PTSD? You keep saying I know these things, and I would like for you to show me, because if I have PTSD came up, let me see that. I don't remember. I remember her saying I was raped, that you just showed me, and saying maybe it's something like nervous. I remember her saying that because I said that's not us.
You were working with Investigator Riddle, right?
Yes, sir.
He was telling you what he's finding in the investigation, right?
What specific time are you talking about now? Are you talking about in the interview, or are you talking about some other time?
Let me ask you.
Yeah. Your Honor, first of all, I'm going to object because he's asking him to review notes that this witness didn't write.
They're working as a team. She tells him, we've already seen the video, the jury's seen the video, when in 2 minutes and 40 seconds at the interview at the house, she tells him he's got
What is,
PTSD.
I mean, let me see the notes.
And may we approach her?
Okay. I'm not gonna ask you about little notes. I'm gonna ask you to look at page 3 of the transcript. I'm gonna ask you to read that highlighted paragraph to yourself. Did you read that?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall that being said?
Now that you showed me, I guess she did say it.
Right. What she said to you was, I really don't, you were saying about she needs somebody there, right? I really don't talk to anybody. Ever since I got raped by a police officer, I really distanced myself from everybody. And I made my life just about my kids because I got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. That's what she told you on page 3 of this interview into your interview with KPD. Right away, right?
Correct.
So you said you talked to all kinds of people. Do they all react the same way to bad news, to death in the family?
They usually have some kind of reaction that is, like I said, different from how Miss Howington was reacting.
She didn't give you the old Lord Jesus.
No, sir.
And you don't know it, and she told you she stays quiet and by herself because of the PTSD, right?
This is my reaction. Me seeing her reaction to her child being dead was before that. That was at the hospital. And at the hospital, there was no reaction.
Do you reckon she had PTSD when she was at the hospital?
She hadn't made it aware to me or Investigator Riddle or any officer to that I know of at that point.
Ding, 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 ding. She told him at the scene.
She didn't tell me at the scene. Because again, like I told you, I was at the scene for a minute. I never saw her, and then I went to the hospital.
So it is your testimony as an experienced former homicide detective that everyone reacts at least more excited or agitated than Miss Howard.
That has been my experience.
And you have no idea whether her PTSD would have any effect on her, how she reacts emotionally, do you?
No, sir, I do not.
But you know she was medicated, don't you?
No, sir, I don't know she was
For the love
medicated.
of God, you went through her purse and pulled each bottle out and went through it with her. What's this for? What's this for? Right?
I did.
And she said it's all PTSD.
I don't know. I don't know if she took. I never asked her if she took it. I just asked her what it was for. So I can't tell you for a fact if she was medicated or not.
You saw a whole bunch of pill bottles in that purse, didn't you? You were really amazed by it.
There were several pill bottles in that purse.
And you didn't ask, are you taking any of these right now?
No, sir.
But you did get interested in one of them, right?
Correct.
And you asked her what it was for, and she said, what?
Shingles.
You remember that?
Yeah,
She
I watched
said
the.
shingles.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then you said, and you let me hug on you?
Correct.
What was she supposed to do? Armed investigator, Wardlaw, fight you off?
If I've had people attempt to hug me before, and if I don't want to be hugged, I either say don't hug me, or I don't reciprocate and put my arm around them. So if she had done either of those, I would have think that would have indicated I don't want to be hugged. But again, like we saw in the video, she reciprocated the hug, sir.
And those people were trying to hug you and you didn't want to be hugged? And you locked in their interview room?
Yeah, I've been locked in an interview room with people that have tried to hug me before.
You thought that was okay with
Again, sir,
Did you ask her?
she was a grieving mother.
Did you ask her if she'd like a hug?
No, sir, I didn't ask her.
Okay. And then you say, and after you find out she had shingles, you let me hug on you. And then start talking about my kids. I got kids. I don't want to I can't take shingles home.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Is that in the transcript? I said that?
Yeah.
I said those words in the transcript.
You said, he says, you let me hug on you. He says that he's got kids. And you start talking about how do you catch shingles? I can't be getting shingles.
Again, could you let me see that? Because you keep wanting me to testify to things, and you're trying to put words in my mouth, and you have it readily available, but you won't let me see.
What happened?
I don't feel like you're telling us.
He swore as fuck, dude. You talked to him, you agreed.
Can't mess with none of your money, so I'm still right there, okay?
When we get out there, you let us search your car.
You sure you don't know how to get in touch with Antoine? Because we really like to talk to him.
I don't think he knows.
So what's this one? Clover, what's that?
I have shingles from stress.
Well, that is no good. You got all kinds of contagious, are you? You just now, you let me hug on you, tell me you got shingles.
Damn. Hey, and he's got a small child.
This is the law.
Now,
What's this? Fluoxetine or whatever.
What's Prozac?
That's Prozac.
Well, I know all this stuff whenever I got raped.
Cellcobix or whatever.
Yep, I have arthritis. I was in the room back closed. I went
Now do you remember your reaction to her telling you that's the shingles medicine?
Your question was that I said you're taking this home to my kids. I never said anything. All I did was look at her after I said you let me hug you and you have shingles. So no, I never made a comment about taking that home to my kids. That's what you asked. Is that not what you asked me?
At the end of this segment, as you're walking out the door, do you ask her, when we get to the house, can you give me some of that shingles medicine?
That wasn't your question. Your question was,
I'm asking you right now.
I'm answering your first question, which was I made a comment about I was taking it home to my kids. I never made a comment about taking anything home to my kids. I just looked at her. Then when I was leaving out, as you say, again, if you're going to say I made a comment, I would like to see it.
You know the jury's already seen this, right?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't seen it while I've been in here.
Well,
so.
we'll let them then decide whether or not you're being truthful to the officer. Now,
Ask the questions.
oh, now, I would ask you
Michael,
just,
what page are you on?
I'm on page 18.
Are you gonna ask him about
I'm gonna ask him to read
something?
page 18 to himself quietly. Then I'm gonna ask him a question.
The whole page?
Your Honor, I think it's improper impeachment. I think he has to ask him a question on
I
something
asked
that he
him,
said.
okay. You brought up Antoine as a possible suspect, and you asked her anything that's possible that he did. He came in there, he's angry about the situation, and he shot Destiny. And I said, do you remember her saying that? Do you remember her answer? You said, show it to me. Read page 18, please. Let me know when you're through. Skip that last long paragraph.
That's what I'm actually reading.
So, do you recall asking her if it's possible that Antoine did this?
I do.
What did she say to you?
She said she knew it wasn't him, but I explained to you earlier why I came to that assumption. Just because she told me it wasn't him doesn't mean that's believable. She told us, sir, are you going to let me answer the question, sir? Are you going to let me answer the question,
Didn't
sir?
answer the
That's not
question.
responsive, Judge. He's
It was
editorialized.
responsive, but finish your answer, then ask the next question. Do not talk over each other.
Like I said, I told you guys earlier why I came to that assumption. Just because she told us it wasn't him doesn't mean it wasn't him. She told us several things that turned out not to be true. And I explained to you about how in domestic situations, what usually happens. We have domestics all the time where we get called and the person said, oh no, they didn't do anything, or it wasn't that person, because they take up for each other. So in this situation, it could have been something to that effect. And again, when I asked her that, all she had to say was no if it wasn't Antoine, but she didn't say no. She ran with it and accused somebody else.
What the hell you say? Read aloud that answer right there from Ms. Howington about whether or not Antoine did it.
She says, I know it ain't Antoine, I promise. And then she said it was Antoine.
Just say no.
Sir, again, I'm answering. Sir, again, I'm answering.
I haven't asked a question.
I'm
I asked him to read it, and he read it.
He read it. Ask the next question.
That's
Do
what
not
I'm
talk
trying to do.
over each other.
You just told this jury that if it wasn't Antoine, all she had to do was tell you no. And when she tells you no, you don't care.
Sir.
She told you no, didn't she?
At which point in the interview does she tell me that?
Did she
At
tell
which
you
point
no?
in the interview did she tell me that,
I'm
sir?
answering the question.
She told me that
Answer his question, then move on.
She told me that before.
Multiple times. Answer his question, then
She
move
said-
on to
she
the next
said no.
topic. Answer his question.
She told you no, didn't she?
At the beginning of the interview, she said no.
Answered.
The hell, Judge, it's not asked and answered.
We're
It's
gonna
a
take
simple
5
yes or no
minutes.
question.
All rise.